Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. There is an earthquake swarm that's rattling residents right now in New Mexico, just south of Albuquerque. There's quite a few people worried about the potential for a bigger earthquake. There is some history of very large earthquakes striking nearby, though they are very few and far between. But really, this is a bigger story than that because, in fact, there is a hidden magma chamber deep below Socorro that has the potential to become a supervolcano. And this earthquake swarm beautifully illustrates the fact that this is a very active and alive system. So we see this earthquake swarm here, 18 events thus far over the past week. We see it really started off with this 3.7 and then this 3.9, which is the strongest back on the 14th. But we have had some follow-ups just recently. Two 3.8s have popped off. So these are all fairly significant events. People have felt that. They've been jolted and rattled in their homes, though this isn't typically going to damage buildings or things of that nature. We see that the cumulative energy release for this is going up, and the cumulative magnitude is now about 4.3 because the combination of the 3.9 to two 3.8s bumps that to over a magnitude 4. And look at how we've had this acceleration right there just over the past 24, 36 hours there in terms of the activity and seismicity. I'm filming this, by the way, on June 18th of 2026. So a pretty significant earthquake swarm that really highlights some of the hidden geologic features that most people don't know about, because there are some big supervolcanoes in North America that are fairly well known. We can see them here on Google Earth. We have Long Valley Caldera there in California. Of course, Yellowstone Caldera, very, very famous. We also have Vise Caldera there, also in New Mexico. And then you have this magma body deep underneath Socorro, which very few people know about. And well, it's more than just that too. This earthquake swarm tells us that there's other geologic factors at play as well. We see that this is an extensional earthquake here based off of our moment tensor plot. This number right there is the rake. If it's negative, it means that the fault is slipping down and extending. So it's an extensional earthquake. That makes sense. This is the basin and range, an extensional environment. And in fact, what you have underneath New Mexico and the Rio Grande is the Rio Grande Rift Valley. So you actually have the crust rifting apart in this location in the North American continent. And this is all connected into quite a lot of volcanic activity that's occurred over geologic time. Now, the latest update to this, you could say geologically, is this new mid-crustal magma body known as the Socorro Magma Body. We see its rough area of extent there, so quite large. As you can see, this earthquake swarm is located directly above it, and there have been earthquake swarms like this in the past, so this isn't necessarily new, but it is showing that it's active right now, and it's something to pay attention to. And there's some interesting history as it relates to earthquake swarms and bigger earthquakes related to the Socorro Magma Body and global seismicity, which tells us that this is a pretty important place on the globe overall. So we see these four big volcanic systems, Long Valley, Yellowstone, Vise, and Socorro, all forming this outline here of the basin and range, right? Is that a coincidence? Personally, I don't think so. Of course, you also have a lot of subduction related volcanoes up here, but look at how we get this perfect isolation there of the basin and range with these giant volcanoes. And while this is a very big volcano, it's not a tiny one. The Socorro Magma Body is roughly about 20 kilometers down. It's one giant horizontal sill. According to seismic reflection surveys, it's about 0.1 to 0.5 kilometers thick, down 20 kilometers below the surface. And then there must be some sort of plumbing system that connects it down into the asthenosphere and the mantle, or else we wouldn't have magma there. But there is active magma flow. It's considered a bright magma chamber, meaning that it's quite active and fluid still, which that is still the case with Yellowstone and also Long Valley. Now, the estimated volume on this is like 100 to 1,000 cubic kilometers. So that's big. If we look at our past eruptions from Yellowstone, Long Valley, and Vise caldera, we see that Yellowstone last erupted 640,000 years ago. That was about 1,000 cubic kilometers of dry rock equivalent. Then for Vise caldera, it was 2 eruptions, 1.6 and also 1.2 million years ago. The range is about 300 to 600 cubic kilometers of material. You can see this caldera here very nicely. Check this out. You see this giant caldera here. We can measure this. I think it's like about 14 miles across. You see it's about 23 kilometers across right there. So huge eruptions out of New Mexico already. This magma body being just to the south. And then you had Long Valley caldera erupt 760,000 years ago with a dry rock equivalent about 650 cubic kilometers. So that puts all these in that supervolcano category, though this isn't a hard and fast definition. These are all gigantic eruptions. So I think it's appropriate to use the term super as it relates to them. And well, with the Socorro Magma Body having a volume in that estimate range of 100 to 1,000 cubic kilometers, this is huge. The difference is that this is a mid-crustal magma storage system. So it's not a full crustal going from the mantle up to the surface. There is no surface expression for this magma body yet, but that does not mean that cannot occur. If we go back to our USGS map here, we see that the majority of seismic activity in New Mexico is concentrated over the Socorro Magma Body. And look at the depths here. These are all about 9, 10, 11 kilometers down. So it's closer to the surface than that extensive, huge, very active magma body. And what we see in many other locations, Hawaii is a great example, is that as you get these fractures, that then starts to allow magma to come up and create either new layers. These can be sills, which are horizontal, dikes, which can be at an angle or vertical. And well, this could be the newest supervolcano forming underneath North America. Now, this does not mean that it's about to erupt tomorrow, but eventually I would think, at least the current evidence is that this is coming. And that is further supported by the fact that we have underneath the Rio Grande Rift Valley. So you have active rifting there already occurring, and that is in general weakening the crust and allowing for more pathways and fractures to come up. This being directly situated underneath the Rio Grande River in that Rift Valley. Another location where we have a Rift Valley, of course, is going to be New Madrid. This is off to the east, but guess what's directly over the failed Rift Valley, the Real Foot Rift Valley that's buried now, and the New Madrid fault system? It's the Mississippi. So you see how surface expressions like rivers can sometimes tell us a little bit about what's actually happening down at depth. Another good example of this is if you go up here to California and you go to Walker Lane, this belt of increased seismicity that helps accommodate a lot of the plate motion between the Pacific plate, the North American plate, you can literally draw it exactly in between these lakes here. So we know that surface expression of water is connected into fault systems and more, because water helps to lubricate these faults, and you have hydrological systems and much more. So it's quite complex, but the Socorro Magma Body is very, very big underneath the surface, and we're right now seeing earthquakes and an earthquake swarm occur directly above it. Now, if we go back in time a little bit, we'll see something interesting. So here I chose earthquakes for the surrounding area going back to the year 1800, and there's not too many, and this earthquake catalog is not going to be complete. We see that our oldest earthquake here is 1869, actually near Socorro, New Mexico. So there's been activity for this for a while. But if we really zone in here, we'll see that we have this magnitude 5.2, 1869. We had this magnitude 5.8, 1906. That is interesting. I'll explain why. 1906 was a huge year for global seismicity, connecting perhaps this system into the larger changes occurring with the Earth. And then also to the north here, we see this 5.2. But this USGS catalog, in fact, is incomplete because while it's listing this magnitude 5.8 there in 1906, this is the 15th of November, the more up-to-date magnitude estimates for this have that as a 6.2. And there were also, there was a magnitude 5.6 that occurred same year on July 12th, and also a 5.8 that occurred on July 16th. And the historic record was that effectively this area was shaking nonstop from July of 1906 all the way well into 1907. So this area was super active. Not just these three big quakes, the 5.6 July 12th, the 5.8 July 16th, which aren't on this map, and the 6.2 November 15th, 1906. There were probably thousands of these earthquakes at magnitude 4, magnitude 3, magnitude 2, and more. So this is a quite active system. Now those are very likely occurring above this magma body, but you have uplift right now as a result of that magma body at about 2 millimeters per year. So it's influencing everything. And let's just go back in time. You have the crust of a continent, okay? Let's just use North America here, right? You have the crust here. And then you have magma coming up from the mantle. Well, before it can explode at the surface, it has to get through the crust. So inevitably, before you have a full crustal magma system, you're going to have a mid-crustal system. It's going to take time for it to then breach that upper layer, which again, we can see right here with this idealized example. It's going to take some time for it to go through the lower crust and then all the way to the surface through the upper crust. So we could right now be seeing the creation of a supervolcano, and this is occurring just a little bit to the south of the Vise caldera, which was a huge supervolcano eruption that occurred back 1.2 and also 1.6 million years ago with hundreds of cubic kilometers of ejected material. Well, last time we saw these big earthquakes, 5.6, 5.8, 6.2 in 1906, we also saw big activity globally. Here we can look at earthquakes magnitude 7 and greater from the year 1905 to 1907. And there's quite a lot of activity for all three of these years, but certainly 1906 is the big year. So if we start off though, we see the 7.8 there, 1905, that's January, that's big. 7.8 is much bigger than a magnitude 7, for example. But we're looking at all earthquakes greater than magnitude 7. Then we see a 7.9 there in April on the 4th. Then we see two earthquakes that struck Mongolia here back to back in July. So 1905 was also a big year. Those both being megaquakes at greater than magnitude 8. We see another magnitude 7.8 there. That's September. And then you go over and we start to get 1906 to pop off. Magnitude 8.8 in January. You have a 7.9 there in April. Guess what? That's San Francisco. Look at this whole line of earthquakes that occurred throughout this time frame there. You have San Francisco. You also have here a 7.4 Baja, 1907. This 7.3 occurring before it, so that one actually occurring in between the two epicenters, that being in 1906. We see a big earthquake there in Mexico, 7.8. So this whole area was super active in a way that we have not seen in quite some time back in 1906, 1907. And well, at the same time that this was occurring, right over here, we had tons of high magnitude earthquakes striking just above the Socorro Magma Body and shaking the residents of that area nonstop for more than 6 months. There were many other high magnitude earthquakes that occurred in 1906. It's a record year basically for magnitude 8+ quakes. It's one of the strongest years on record, even though there wasn't a magnitude 9 that ruptured that year, the strongest being that 8.8. But it just goes to show you that when we have these giant bursts of seismicity globally, well, at least this system was also rumbling heavily, and this Socorro magma body is directly connected to the mantle. So there are these connections between what's happening deeper in the earth and earthquake activity a little bit closer to the surface that we're going to look at. So now that we're having this earthquake swarm here directly above the Socorro magma body, we had a magnitude 8.8 megaquake last year, Kamchatka, right? We've had quite a bit of seismic activity. 2025 was one of the strongest years ever on record. It's like number 6, I think, on record. Number 6 or number 7 because of the megaquake, right? We're seeing historic activity out of Hawaii and from Kilauea because it's now had 49 fountaining episodes in just a little bit more than a year and a half. We've never seen it be so active so quickly. It beats the prior record. We're seeing examples and activity like that all around the world. Huge magma buildup in Iceland. Guess what? Those are both hot spots, mantle plumes connected deep to the mantle. And so they're really showing that there are some profound changes right now occurring in the deep earth. And well, this could be the next supervolcano that strikes North America. Though it could be 1,000 years from now, it could be 500,000 years from now. But we know that they certainly exist. New Mexico already has a history with supervolcanoes. We see that right here with this caldera. And we can really see that very clearly with this map here. Look at the topographic map there. You see all these domes, this resurgent dome there, and you see that caldera and how it is completely subsided after a gigantic eruption. Quite a lot of volcanic activity overall in the area. Here we see the volume size estimate as compared to Yellowstone 630,000 years ago. So you see that this was very, very big. And there you can see the caldera from the air. So New Mexico already has a history. This perhaps is the latest expression of that. And we are now seeing earthquake activity just above it, indicating that this magma body exists, and perhaps this is the beginning of that fracture network that allows that mid-crustal magma storage system to become a full crustal supervolcano. So that's your update for today. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll keep you up to date on everything that's happening with the Earth energetically: earthquakes, volcanoes, geomagnetic storms, severe weather, also solar activity, space weather, planetary alignments and resonances, interstellar cosmic forces, and so much more. I release videos almost daily. Thank you all so much for your support. Smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow. Wishing you all well. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next video.